June isn't just another month on the gardening calendar. It's a window, and it's one most gardeners walk right past. Right now, soil temperatures are climbing, days are long, and root growth is running at its absolute peak. Plants that go into warm, prepared ground in May don't just survive. They accelerate. They root deep, establish fast, and spend the entire season building something your garden will still be showing in year 3, year 5, even year 10. The 8 plants I'm about to show you were chosen specifically for this moment. None of them are the usual suspects you'll find at every garden center. A few of them have credentials that would stop experienced gardeners in their tracks. And the first one, almost nobody is growing it. But the people who do, they never stop talking about it. Plant 1, Gilenia trifoliata. The plant botanists loved and gardeners forgot. If you've never heard the name, you're in good company, and that's exactly why it leads this list. Gilenia trifoliata, commonly known as Bowman's root, has been growing in the forests and rocky slopes of eastern North America for centuries. The Cherokee knew it. Early American botanists documented it as far back as the 1700s. It was named after Dr. John Bowman, an 18th-century Virginia physician who collected native plants and recognized early on that this was something genuinely special. Then, somehow, it vanished from gardens almost entirely. You won't find it at your local garden center. You won't see it at the big box stores. But spend 5 minutes looking at it in bloom, and you'll understand immediately why serious gardeners, the ones designing for Chelsea, the ones whose borders people drive across states to see, call it one of the most valuable perennials available. Here's what it does. By late spring, Gilenia builds itself into a soft, billowing mound 2 to 3 feet tall, equally wide, covered in thousands of small, 5-petaled, star-shaped white flowers held on distinctively wiry red stems. And here's the detail that stops people cold. Those flowers don't sit still. In the faintest movement of air, every single one trembles. The whole plant appears to be breathing. It has an aliveness that most perennials never achieve. The red stems do something important there too. They create a contrast that gives the white flowers a depth you simply don't get from plants where everything is the same color. The Royal Horticultural Society recognized exactly this when they awarded it their prestigious Award of Garden Merit, outstanding performance across a wide range of conditions. That is not an easy standard to meet. Here's why May is exactly the right moment. Get it into warm soil now, and it establishes with unusual speed. Young plants build girth quickly in amended moisture-retentive ground. By end of season, something meaningful is already there. By year 2, you have the full billowing presence. And every fall, this is the detail most people only discover after they've grown it. The entire plant shifts to a deep red-orange that rivals any dedicated autumn perennial you've ever grown. 4 distinct seasons of interest from a single planting. 0 serious pest or disease problems. Deer-resistant. Tolerant of both sun and shade as long as the hottest afternoon hours are softened. Plant Gilenia in partial shade to dappled sun, in fertile, moist but well-drained soil. It performs beautifully as an understory plant beneath deciduous trees, at the corner of a house or patio where it can soften hard edges, or toward the front to middle of a mixed border where its height and movement contrast beautifully with bold, upright companions. Space it 18 to 24 inches from neighbors. Water consistently through this first season. That's the investment. After that, it manages itself. It doesn't spread where you don't want it. It doesn't need dividing. It simply grows, season after season, getting more beautiful every year. You'll likely need to order it from a specialty perennial nursery. That's not a drawback. It's part of the story. When your neighbors ask what that extraordinary plant is in late spring, you'll have an answer they've never heard before. Plant 2, Gora lindheimeri, the one the botanists called superb. The name gives it away if you know where to look. The genus name Gora comes from the Greek goros, meaning superb. That wasn't marketing language. That was the scientific community's own assessment, and this plant earns it. Gora is native to Texas and Louisiana, open prairies, dry roadsides, ground that bakes all summer without mercy. That origin is the complete explanation for why it belongs in a May garden. When you plant it now into warming soil with the full growing season ahead, the taproot drives down fast. And that taproot is the secret. It goes well past the reach of most perennials, finding moisture during dry spells, anchoring the plant through heat that reduces everything around it to a struggle. By midsummer, while neighboring plants are wilting and fading, Gora is in full, uninterrupted bloom. What the bloom looks like: hundreds of small, four-petaled white flowers, flushing pink as they age, held on long, wiry, arching stems that sway with every movement of air. They open only a few at a time along each stem, always from the tips outward. The display is continuous rather than a single burst, from late May straight through the first hard frost. That's 4 to 5 months of bloom from a plant that asks for almost nothing after it's established. A cluster of Gora in a light summer breeze looks like a cloud of white butterflies hovering just above the border. That's not a poetic stretch. It's what people consistently say when they see it for the first time. And that effect is entirely self-maintaining, no deadheading, no staking. The spent flowers drop cleanly, new buds form at the extending tips, and the plant keeps going on its own. Full sun, well-drained soil, space plants 18 to 24 inches apart. The one thing Gora will not forgive is wet roots. Drainage is the single non-negotiable. Get that right, and this plant runs on neglect. In its second year, cut it back by roughly half in late spring if it starts getting leggy. That trim triggers the densest, most floriferous growth of the season. Otherwise, leave it alone. Plant Gora in groups of 3 or more rather than as a single specimen. The stems support each other naturally in a group planting, and the movement of several plants together creates a visual effect that no single plant can achieve alone. Plant 3, Persicaria amplixicalis firetail. The plant Piet Oudolf chose for the high line. Piet Oudolf is the Dutch garden designer responsible for New York's High Line, Chicago's Lurie Garden, and some of the most influential public plantings of the last 30 years. Oudolf doesn't choose plants based on how they look in a nursery pot. He chooses them based on how they perform across a full season, how they hold structure into winter, how reliably they return year after year without intervention. His plant palette is about as close to a field-tested, rigorously curated list as exists in the perennial world. Firetail made that list and stays on it. Here's what it does. From a May planting, it establishes quickly. This is a vigorous plant that doesn't hesitate. By midsummer, it's producing pencil-thin, elongated flower spikes in deep, fiery crimson red, held on tall stems above a dense mound of large, fresh green leaves. Those spikes are narrow and upright architectural, and they catch afternoon light in a way that makes the whole plant glow. Not soft, not gentle, bold, clear, and completely unmistakable. What separates Firetail from most perennials is duration. Those flower spikes don't appear and vanish in 2 weeks. They begin in midsummer and continue, pollinators working them constantly, until the first hard frost shuts everything down. That's 10 to 12 weeks of continuous bloom from a single planting. Combined with the large, weed-suppressing foliage at the base, you're getting a plant that earns its space every week from June through October. Persicaria is also one of the most adaptable plants on this list. Full sun or partial shade, clay soils or heavy soils that defeat many perennials. It handles moisture well. It doesn't need dividing for years, and when you do divide it, every piece you replant becomes a productive plant within a season. Space plants about 3 feet apart. Firetail earns that space over time. Position it toward the middle or back of a border where the tall spikes can rise above shorter companions. Pair it with ornamental grasses or late-season yellow perennials, and you'll have a combination that's genuinely hard to walk past. Plant 4, Geranium rosin, the one that blooms longer than almost anything else on this list. When people hear the bloom window on rosin, they assume it's an exaggeration. It isn't. This hardy geranium begins flowering in early summer and continues with almost no interruption until the first frost, a bloom window of 4 to 5 months from a single plant. The color is a rich, clear violet blue with a white center, one of those shades that works with almost anything growing nearby. It doesn't compete, it anchors. Here's what most gardeners don't anticipate: the speed. Plant rosin in May in good soil with adequate moisture, and by August, you'll have a plant that has spread up to 20 inches in every direction, completely covering the ground beneath it and producing more flowers than you can count. It earns its space fast and keeps earning it all season long. Rosin grows best in full sun but handles partial shade well, which makes it genuinely useful in the difficult spots where you need color but can't guarantee light all day. Deer-resistant, drought-tolerant once established. Mid-season, if the plant starts looking tired or the center goes bare, a hard cutback triggers a full new FL. Ush of growth and flowers within 2 to 3 weeks. Planted at the front to middle of a border, 12 to 15 inches apart, in moist, well-drained soil. It works beautifully as an edging plant, as ground cover between taller perennials, or in the gaps between shrubs where you need something that will knit the planting together visually across the whole season. Plant 5, Persicaria bistorta, Superba, the early bloomer that covers ground before anything else wakes up. This one is different enough from Firetail that it deserves its own position on this list. Where Firetail is bold and architectural, Superba is soft and early. It produces dense, finger-like spikes of clear baby pink flowers in late spring, among the first perennials to bloom after the cool season ends, held above broad, semi-evergreen leaves that hold the ground all season long. In the right conditions, beside water, in consistently moist soil, it spreads to form a solid, weed-suppressing colony that requires essentially nothing from you once established. What makes Superba exceptional for a May planting is timing. Get it in the ground now, and the root system has the full warm season to establish before it needs to perform. By next spring, the bloom display will be substantially more impressive than the first year, and it compounds from there. Plant in full sun to partial shade in moisture-retentive soil. If you have a low spot in the garden, a damp edge, or a bed that holds water longer than others, this is exactly the plant for that location. It won't merely tolerate those conditions. It will thrive in them in a way that almost nothing else will. Plant 6, Sanguisorba officinalis, the plant that moves like nothing else in the border. Most gardeners plant for static color. You put something in a spot, it blooms, you see the bloom. That's what the mainstream garden market has trained most of us to expect. Sanguisorba doesn't work that way. Sanguisorba works through movement. The plant produces long, wiry stems, sometimes reaching 4 feet, topped with small, rounded flower heads in deep burgundy red, held on with just enough tension that a light breeze sets the entire upper plant in motion. Not wildly, not chaotically. A slow, elegant sway that gives the border a rhythm it simply doesn't have without it. Designers working at the highest level, the ones building garden installations meant to be experienced rather than just photographed, use Sanguisorba specifically for this quality. The genus name itself comes from the Latin sanguis, meaning blood, and sorbio, to absorb, a nod to its long history in herbal medicine. The cultivar Red Thunder and the compact Tana are especially prized selections worth seeking out. It blooms from midsummer through fall, weaves beautifully through ornamental grasses and other tall perennials, and remains virtually unknown outside specialist circles. You almost certainly won't find it at a standard garden center. That's not a problem, it's an opportunity. Order it now, get it in the ground in May, and by late summer you'll have something in your garden that visitors will stop in front of and not be able to name. Full sun, well-drained soil with consistent moisture. Give it room to develop and something to weave through. It performs best as part of a composition, not as a standalone specimen. Plant 7, Pycnanthemum muticum, the 2025 perennial plant of the year most home gardeners haven't heard about yet. Every year, the Perennial Plant Association, a professional body of growers, retailers, landscape designers, and horticultural educators, votes one plant its perennial plant of the year. The criteria are rigorous: a wide growing range, availability, resistance to pests and diseases, ease of care, and beauty across more than one season. For 2025, that honor went to Pycnanthemum muticum, clustered mountain mint. And the gap between what the professional plant world knows about this plant and what most home gardeners have discovered is exactly the kind of opportunity this list is built around. Here's what it does. Clustered mountain mint grows 2 to 3 feet tall, forming dense, branching clumps with bright green, intensely aromatic foliage. Touch the leaves and the fragrance is immediate, clean, minty, unmistakable. From July through September, the stems are topped with clusters of tiny white to pale pink flowers surrounded by striking silvery bracts, leaf-like structures that create the illusion of frost in the heat of summer. That silver effect is eye-catching, distinctive, and it persists for months even after the flowers themselves have faded. The plant's reputation with pollinators is extraordinary. It draws butterflies, bees, wasps, and a remarkable diversity of beneficial insects in numbers that are genuinely startling. If pollinator support matters to you, and at this point in gardening history, it should Pycnanthemum muticum is in a category of its own. It's native to meadows and open woodland. NDS across the eastern United States, west to Texas. That native origin means performance, adaptable to a wide range of soil types including clay, drought-tolerant once established, deer and rabbit-resistant thanks to its aromatic foliage, and virtually disease-free. Plant in full sun to partial shade. More sun means heavier flowering, in moist to average, well-drained soil. It can spread vigorously in rich, moist conditions, so place it accordingly. Grow it in groups where the silver midsummer effect can read from a distance. By late summer, when many perennials are fading, Pycnanthemum is hitting its stride. Plant 8, Veronicastrum virginicum, the architectural anchor your border might not know it's missing. There's a category of perennial that garden designers call structural plants that don't just bloom but give a border its skeleton, its vertical backbone, the element everything else organizes itself around. Veronicastrum virginicum, known as Culver's root, is one of the finest structural perennials available in the North American native plant palette. Here's what it looks like in action. From a May planting in good soil, Culver's root takes its time in year 1. It is establishing, building the root system that will sustain it for decades. But by year 2, a single plant can reach 4 to 7 feet, sending up multiple strong, upright stems lined with whorls of dark green leaves, crowned at the top with elegant candelabra-like spikes of densely clustered, tiny white to pale lavender flowers. Those spikes appear in midsummer and attract bees, monarch butterflies, and a wide range of beneficial insects. After the flowers fade, the spent stalks hold their architectural structure well into winter, providing visual interest and feeding birds through the cold months. The plant is native to the moist meadows and prairies of eastern and central North America, a native origin that translates directly into performance. Drought-tolerant once established, adaptable to full sun or light shade, tolerant of clay and wet soils though it will not accept poor drainage, deer-resistant, no serious pest or disease issues. Plant in full sun to light shade in moist, average, well-drained soil. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart and position them at the back of the border. They earn that placement. By year 2, a single plant becomes a structural anchor that the entire composition can build around. Pair it with ornamental grasses, late-blooming coneflowers, or the deep burgundy spikes of sanguisorba for combinations that hold together from July all the way to the first hard frost. Most gardeners treat June as just another planting month. It isn't. The plants that go into warm ground right now with the full season ahead of them, roots growing at their absolute peak, those are the plants that define what a garden becomes. This season and every season that follows, that window is open right now. Don't wait for it to close.